Today's story is about this nut named Lu Yao, a terminally unhinged guy who, after being used as a hostage in deciding to beat the kidnapper senseless, got hold of an item that tosses him straight into Alice in Borderland. There, he's listed as #1 on the extremely evil list, and now he has to survive this dark web reality show. On that night, the target was chilling in Hospital 13. They were told to come out, no drama, and let the hostages go. The attacker, all serious, threatened to end the young dude's life if anyone dared to step up. When asked if he could take a clean shot without hitting the hostage, the sniper said he had a slim chance. The young guy started calling out the kidnapper, saying his loud heartbeat was giving the sniper a better shot. But the kidnapper was like, shush. Then he moved behind the young guy to shield himself from the sniper, forcing the authorities to switch to Plan B. The hostage suggested the guy should close windows and doors and hide, keeping an eye out for the assault team. Despite telling him to zip it, the kidnapper did what he was told. The strike squad was shook, seeing their moves predicted, and one of them hesitated to charge in because the kidnapper had some important item. The thug was annoyed by how stubborn his opponent was. He quickly dismissed the idea that they knew about the item he had. The hostage then started teasing him for being cornered. This ticked off the robber, who said he could end it all with one bullet. But the hostage calmly pointed out their location. Confusion turned to surprise on the kidnapper's face. They were in a hospice. Our hero had a terminal illness with only 60 days left max. The thug cursed his bad luck. He then said the hostage choice was poor and asked the kidnapper a question. He asked about the precious item the guy was hiding. And just then, as the robber looked away for a second, the young guy grabbed a pillow. He threw it at the kidnapper's face. Then he charged, grabbing the guy's armed arm, and punched him right in the face. The protagonist grabbed the guy's arm, broke it over his shoulder, leaving him in pain, then launched him into the air and slammed him to the ground. The robber called the pajama-wearing hero a liar, but our hero confirmed his days were numbered. He pointed out how the kidnapper wasted 8 minutes of his precious time. He pulled out the mysterious item and asked if it was why he was being chased. The man tried to demand it back, but the young guy opened it, hoping for a healthy body. Then something weird started happening. The robber watched in disbelief as our hero, Lu Yao, became a traverser. Seeing this, the man freaked out, saying Lu Yao caused his own doom. Lu Yao kicked him in the face, saying he was already a sinking ship. He picked up the gun and demanded answers about the otherworldly account, pointing the weapon at his informer's head. Under pressure, the guy spilled the beans. The world changed after the 2050 meteor shower. Some people got the power to travel to other dimensions for trials. Returning to Earth when they ended, victorious travelers got rewarded with cool stuff like powerful weapons and universal meds. But normal folks got jealous and started attacking travelers, wanting the secrets of parallel worlds. It was found that something called otherworldly accounts, appearing as marks, teleported their holders to other worlds, the key to travel. Those with these powers were called traversers. Only a few seconds left, then the door burst open. The strike squad rushed in to take down the attacker and save the hostage. But surprise, it was the kidnapper who needed saving. Our hero had 1 minute left before teleporting to the other world. The kidnapper said you could only enter the other world with just your clothes, and time there was super fast. The pajama-wearing hero was bummed since the guy's gun would have been handy there. But Lu Yao would get some time because the captured kidnapper would be of interest to the government and the three elders. As the seconds ticked down, he started thinking about how the kidnapper mentioned the first trial was safe. But the terminally ill dude decided, nah, not gonna waste his last days worrying. He wanted to explore unknown realities. With that, he was finally ready. After the system detected him, it created his character and dropped him in the public area. And so, the traveler known as Lu Yao made his grand entrance. With his character all set, the protagonist could now check out his character card. Lu Yao started looking around. The character card was like a status window, showing his stats and progress in the trial. The system explained to him how each category represented a certain attribute. It also introduced him to his item and skill column, saying he could carry 30 items in his backpack to trade or sell in the public area. Then he got distracted by someone hyping up the green equipment called the Poison Sword. But the crowd was skeptical, saying it would explode in parallel trials and no one would sell green equipment because of the death penalty. The seller, showing off the blade and other items, claimed they were from parallel worlds. He said there were 4 levels of trial: paper, parallel, strong, and the not yet reached fierce, where blue and green equipment were made. The liar even claimed his weapon was once held by a big shot in the extremely evil West, starting the bid at 500 points. Other adventurers started bidding, each trying to outdo the other. This made the seller super happy. His scam was working. But just before he could close the deal, the highest alarm in the public area went off. The system warned all players about a dangerous person in the area. Before alerting the Supreme Law Enforcement Department, the armored dudes were the Safe Zone Inquisitors, part of the Strong class. Their eyes locked on Lu Yao, who was labeled as #1 on the extremely evil list. He quickly noticed the guards staring him down. The freaked-out seller grabbed his stuff and bolted. But one of the armored guys planted his foot firmly on the ground. Then he leaped into the air, leaving the blonde seller horrified, thinking he didn't deserve such punishment for a little scam. He turned to the protagonist, asking if he was the one who committed a real crime. Our hero knew he had to zip it and find a safe spot. Liu Yao now had 6 wanted stars above his head for being #1 on the extremely evil ranking, meaning all authorities would be after him, aiming to erase his consciousness, which was wild since this was supposed to be safe. The seller pointed him to a portal, saying entering this trial would temporarily get him off the authorities' radar. At that moment, the knight braced himself, before unleashing a powerful swing at the protagonist, who was about to enter the portal while the system tried to explain the concept to him first. But he wasn't having it, demanding immediate entrance. And just like that, the powerful slash unleashed great destruction. The seller watched the impact and cringed. To his shock, he wasn't the one being chased by the authorities. Because of the ill one's ranking on the evil list, he was teleported to a fierce dungeon where a purple treasure chest awaited him after victory. One's life could really end if he got killed in the fierce level. And just like that, the protagonist entered the level known as Don't Disturb If You Die. The goal of this level was to hold hands with the guests of this famous dating show trial and make it out alive. Liu Yao was shocked to realize his life was truly on the line. The crowd suddenly started cheering as a new candidate arrived. With a mic in hand and lights on him, the golden figure in undies was the show's presenter. The newbie was super confused, having somehow become the first traveler to enter a fierce trial. He was then introduced to the watchers as Liu Yao from Earth, so he decided to roll with it, and the crowd seemed to love him. The glowing figure popped up, saying the new guy had some wild surprises in store before shouting out the show's sponsors. Liu Yao was all ears, thinking this was a dating show. He remembered being a total ladies' man back on Earth. But then, bummer, his illness cut him off from all the girl action. The host was super curious about this guy being at paper level. Everyone was hyped because it was the first time a paper level dude joined this intense dating show. Liu Yao asked the system to break down the whole strength level thing. So it explained that strength had tons of ranks, with paper being the weakest, while elite and fierce were the top dogs in the game. The guy was shook, realizing his first challenge was a hardcore dungeon with 0 extra lives. The host started flexing about how the human's death would be the most epic on stage, only to get roasted as a busted light bulb. He was totally confused. So the main dude explained he was the only one fitting that description, then asked for his date, hoping to survive if the guests liked him. The host tried to say his form was just a projection, but quickly moved on to introduce the lady guests. And then the first one strutted in. A lady with a stunning figure hit the stage. The creature was called Miss Soft Red Lips. She seemed to be into our hero, but he was totally grossed out. The host said this star guest loved asking about her looks before munching on them and feeding on their fear. When asked what he thought of her, the hero mustered up all his courage and complimented her eyes. Then it was time to meet the second guest. This one was Miss Slenderlegs, a show regular who loved laying eggs in her blind dates. Facing this spider-like creature, the hero decided to compliment her beauty. And then it was time for guest number 3. Our hero was ready to tackle these 2 blind dates, willing to do anything to survive. Then the third one showed up. The record holder for failed dates, Miss Busty Bum, a butcher from the endless abyss who tortured and killed many blind dates. As she let out a fierce roar, the host turned to the young man. He asked if the third contestant was really a female. This totally offended the creature. She ran off the stage crying while the host told the guy to chill or risk getting booted from the show. Liu Yao pointed out how none of the ladies matched his race's beauty standards. The glowing one said there was one, Miss Sloth, a fierce level beauty, and one of the 7 deadly sins of the abyss. He was super intrigued. But surprise, surprise, no one came on stage. Then the host got word that Miss Sloth said she'd rather find love from her couch and watch the show from home. The glowing one explained the guy had to spend a day outside with each lady contestant. With everything set, it was game time. Meanwhile, the seller tried to convince the jury in the public area court he wasn't tied to the main guy. He claimed he ran off thinking the cops were after him and would have helped if he knew what was up. The judge told Gindley the court found him innocent and free of charges. The young man was relieved, but since he made and sold fake high-tier gear, he got slapped with 200 points of evil and sent to the extremely evil city. And with that, the young man was dragged away, shouting the accusations were bogus. When asked if they should chase the main guy again, the arbitrator said it was pointless, since a newbie could never survive a fierce trial. Meanwhile, in the dating show land, Miss Busty Bum, staring at the corpse, was super ticked off by the rude hero, and decided to teach him a lesson if they ever crossed paths again. Then she heard his voice. Our hero, who ticked off the Abyss Butcher, found himself facing her wrath when he showed up. At that moment, he noticed the giant maiden grabbed her weapon and raised it high, ready to swing it down. And with that, she decided to go for the final blow. At that moment, Liu Yao started wondering out loud about the gentle maiden he'd accidentally offended, making the axe stop right before hitting his head. Those words left the giant one intrigued. Liu Yao then claimed he'd met many women in his life, but it was the first time he felt so flustered around one, and that he sought her tender heart, present in her body, leaving her quite flattered. He then proceeded to call her kindly, humble, and intelligent. Upon hearing this, her status switched to friendly. Lu Yao then said he was bummed to see her leave angry and in a hurry, and that he'd met very few ladies with such a temper. This made the monster's heart skip a beat, allowing her to enter the stage of heartwarming. The man then pointed out an old saying, claiming true beauty comes from the inside rather than the outside, like the gentlest flower blooming in the most horrifying places. Before comparing Miss Busty Bum to the magnificent flower in question, the axe was swung. As it hit the ground, the hero turned around, confused. The giant creature had a very girly expression on her face. As soon as she snapped out of the obsession stage, our hero gained 500 points. Yet somehow he felt on edge. The girlie claimed that hearing someone talk about her like that helped her make a decision, leaving him confused. And so she took a deep breath. Lu Yao immediately realized what she was about to do. The demon butcher then screamed with the loudest voice, addressing her rivals, claiming that the male guest favored her, as female guests number 2 and 3 regressed to the discuss stage. The giant felt quite relieved. Our protagonist was now in a tough spot, as this declaration would make it hard for him to reach out to the other two. Miss Busty Bum then began to run towards our hero, leaving him frightened, as he knew even the tiniest hug could be his doom. Only then was a spiderweb launched, grabbing her foot and making her face plant into the ground. And before she could even realize what was happening, the butcher found herself covered in spider goo. She was particularly irritated by her rival's arrival. The abyssal demon spider claimed her to be too clueless to handle a man like our hero, claiming she'd be more suited and would train him well. The trapped butcher tried to fight for her man, only for this one to ignore her and ask the protagonist if he'd accept her eggs. Seeing how this fighter was now in a state of disgust, our hero needed to give the best response to survive, so he decided to take the lead. He looked menacingly at the creature and called her out for daring to speak to him like that, which left her quite confused. Lu Yao pointed out how the abyssal spider only wanted him to have her children, and that she was only seeing him as a soulless life-giver, and yet as she tried to argue, only for the man to lash out at her and claim it was super awkward, she wanted to make babies with him without even talking about the future first. With that, the status of the demon, as well as the mysterious lady, switched to friendly, leaving him quite intrigued. Upon seeing this, the viewers were left stunned by how smooth he was. According to the host, this move had been backed up by many gender equality organizations. Only then did he receive word that the fourth candidate, chilling at home, had taken interest in a contestant for the first time, demanding info about our protagonist. Meanwhile, he was wondering about the odd system message he received, and he quickly realized there were more than 3 female entities involved in the show. Only then did he hear his name, as the third guest appeared right behind him, while he began to think of how he must keep his location secret. Before Miss Soft Red Lips could speak, she was suddenly slapped in the face. Leaving her rivals quite stunned, Lu Yao told her she should be more confident and not rely on others' judgment to assert her beauty. This unexpected move left the creature quietly intrigued. It also blew the host's mind, who asked the director to replay the scene. All were left baffled by the fact that a level 1 human dared to slap a deadly fierce level creature. The glowing dude was sure Lu Yao was about to get wrecked, since the person he just left was super into what others thought of her. But plot twist, the slapped one was blushing like a tomato, looking all shy. Miss Soft Red Lips was shook like, what just happened? Even though the handsome guy was chilling with zero fear. Her heart was doing the cha-cha because of his mega evil vibes. While hanging with the powerful entity, Lu Yao unlocked a skill called Source of Ultimate Evil. He quickly realized this was not your average Tuesday. This power meant he'd always be on the authorities' radar, letting him control anyone he touched for 10 minutes a day, bossing them around. Reading this, the young dude realized he had just hypnotized the powerful entity. She was totally mind-blown by how epic the guy in front of her seemed. She was suddenly all about eating him up, literally. Thanks to the skill, the third entity was in full-on obsession mode. She rushed at our hero, ready to gobble him up, but he was like, nah, you're a total weirdo, just like the other two. Still, the boy knew each girl wouldn't let the others have him. Miss Soft Red Lips blocked the incoming axe, but got tossed aside by the chunky one who wanted the guy for herself. The spider decided to let her rivals duke it out while she enjoyed the main course solo, only for him to say the other two might have something to say about that. Ms. Busty Bum was gearing up to throw Miss Soft Red Lips at the demon spider to save the day. And as she was launched, our hero was like, wow, 3 fierce creatures are fighting over me. But he knew none of their love was the real deal. Lu Yu realized that picking one girl would make the other two team up against him, spelling doom. His survival odds wouldn't even go up if he let them fight it out and then face the powerful winner who outclassed him big time. Just then, the girls' brawl got interrupted by someone whining about how hard it was to choose. Lu Yao was like, I'm not into mixing violence and romance. The first contestant wanted answers, and so did the chunky one. So the boy explained that fighting wasn't the way to win his heart. All the contestants started to worry he was gonna bail. But he was like, nah, I just need to think before deciding. So he suggested spending time with each of them to build a bond, hoping it might save him from certain doom. He promised to pick a girl after the bonding time. He decided to be sneaky and make fake promises like being a loyal hubby and a great dad. He even said that if this love led to his end, he'd be cool with it. Hearing this, the one with the moved heart firmly declared she'd prove she was the only one who could truly take his life. 50 minutes left until the program ended and a weird creature was munching alone in the graveyard. Then it turned around and got smacked on the head. The abomination was super ticked off by the human daring to hit it, so it jumped to end his life. But he called a fierce entity out of nowhere to protect himself from the bully. And just like that, the monster was in a sticky situation. It started crying, trying to bargain and argue, but the lady just reached into its skull, leaving it no choice but to struggle, run away, and retreat. Red Lips then gave the boy a gift, which turned out to be a ghoul's eye, a rare blue item from a powerful monster. The lady wanted to chat about marriage and other stuff, so the young dude was like, yeah, we got lots to talk about, as he grabbed her shoulder and looked her in the eyes. Just like that, the suggestion words kicked in. The lady said she hated being looked at like that as it made her unable to choose the right way to kill. Seeing how her true nature was all about the killer instinct, our hero started rambling about how epic Red Lips was, saying he'd totally risk it all for her. Then he left her puzzled, saying this show was like a wall between them. He explained how the show was just using her drama to boost views, and she should totally rebel. With the creature nodding along, his charm worked like a charm. Suddenly the boy freaked out, pointing at a creature, saying it was giving him the creeps. Red Lips dashed to handle it. Seeing the game was rigged, our hero decided to flip the script. With less than half an hour left, he moved on to the next girl. His card showed he still had his full health and all his weak stats. Later, the fierce-looking monster got shredded by the real beast. The mean one was deep in thought about the love interest she wanted to crush. Then the spell's timer ran out. As soon as the girl snapped back to reality, she switched to a playful vibe. As per the system, the shaman realized she was no longer under his spell. He decided to charm the second contestant, who thought she'd been drugged, falling head over heels for the hero. He said he was just reflecting her feelings. The spider hugged the human, saying if he picked any rival, he'd be toast, and that choosing her was the right move, as she'd take care of him. She even threatened to open him up if he dared to reject her, so he agreed, saying there were issues. Leaving the spider puzzled, our hero reminded her of her promise to protect him if he became her mate. The demon confirmed it was her duty. He claimed the show didn't care about her happiness and was out to get him. He decided to use his power to say the game should be scrapped. Then an angry presence lunged at him, mad at his tricks. The spider was curious about Red Lips' anger. Lu Yao falsely claimed she was there to end him for rejecting her. Red Lips charged in with killer intent, but a projectile came out of nowhere, forcing her to block and halt her attack. She recognized the move as the spider's. She was shocked to find her rival defending the manipulator. Lu Yao asked her to chill and let it go. Red Lips was furious at the spider blocking her path, so she summoned her weapon to take them down. Then a storm of web fluids erupted, freezing the angry one in place. The rage consumed her so much, she used her blade to cut through the webs and her own arms to break free. She charged through the spider's projectiles, even slicing off one of its limbs. But the purple one was stunned. He asked if she was still serious. The enraged one demanded the manipulator be handed over. The demon said she wasn't scared. And just like that, the two fierce creatures clashed. With 5 minutes left before the show ended, meanwhile, our hero watched from afar, feeling powerless to step in. Then someone called him. The third one finally showed up. Miss Busty Bum was annoyed she'd waited so long, only to find him with her rivals. She asked if he was a liar. Before he could answer, his arm got sliced off. Our hero found himself backed against the graveyard with a tenth of his health, trying to stop the bleeding. Things were looking rough for our hero, as he'd lost most of his health and a big chunk of his SP. The butcher noted how the young man reminded her of someone she knew before becoming a demon. She said back then, no one noticed her because of her looks, until one day she bumped into this dude who was all about her personality, making her feel comfy for the first time ever. Then he asked her to deliver a package packed with some seriously sketchy stuff. The butcher found herself sprinting for her life as these guys with sticks started chasing her down. When she got there, she heard someone shouting that an ugly beast was going to bite the dust this time. The guy's friends started mocking her, but they were secretly grateful because she brought them some epic loot. Hearing this, she just broke down in tears. The dude started rambling about how easy it was to mess with the butcher and win her over by just being a bit nice. With all the teasing and trash talk, the ugly girl just couldn't handle it anymore, so she stormed into the bar and started taking them down, one by one, in a fit of madness and rage. Back to now, she explained how the smooth talker she had previously taken out reminded her a lot of the charmer in front of her. So she asked him if she could take him out too. Right then, Lu Yao pointed out how touching his missing arm was a major no-no, and before she knew it, his power kicked in. Time to drop some words of suggestion. He then asked the demon if she even knew her own name, leaving her super curious. Our hero pointed out how despite playing this game a bunch, She always got stuck with the same lame title. Everyone in her past and present life just saw her as a tool. Seeing her puzzled about her next move, the boy said she should tear apart this game and its mocking viewers, along with those who gave her that silly title instead of her real name. With that, the demon let out a fierce roar. Everyone, including her rivals, was on high alert. Ms. Busty then charged at the two of them. With 30 seconds left on the clock, the three fierce creatures went all out. 10 seconds to go, and our hero started losing health from blood loss. So he grabbed the demon's leg, along with the arm of the one with the giant mouth, and her weapon, the ferocious Ripper. Only then did the three female guests notice him. And just like that, the silver-tongued one said goodbye as he entered near-death mode at the end of the show, earning even more admiration from the mysterious fourth entity. After the epic fail, the butcher remembered every time she had been on the show. She also recalled the manipulator's words, saying she never did what she truly wanted. Back on stage, the host was shocked to see the experienced ladies get outplayed by a newbie so easily. This totally bummed out the crowd, who paid to see some serious action. The host reminded the contestants that their lame performance would be a major stain on their records. But before he could finish, a chain flew out. The giant blade missed him by a hair. And just like that, the giant butcher made her entrance. In front of her two rivals, she said the show should be cancelled. Seeing the crowd loving the drama, the host decided to roll with it. The light bulb tried to argue they shouldn't mess with the game or they'd lose their shot at finding love. Then a fourth presence showed up, annoyed by all the noise. With that, everyone zipped it. The sudden arrival shocked the host. It was none other than Miss Sloth, making her surprise entrance. She said she hated crowds and gave them 10 seconds. Everyone was confused, but they quickly got it when she started counting down. With that, the whole crowd bolted, running for their lives. And just like that, the host was left alone with the four contestants. When asked what she wanted, the lady demanded info on the male candidate, so the host tried to argue about how weak he was. But faced with a darker glare, he immediately caved and handed over the info on his knees. The tale about the hero left her kind of impressed. With that, she urged the other contestants to get back to business before making her exit. Red Lips was intrigued by the powerful demon's interest in the human. At that moment, the giant blade was raised high. When asked if she really planned to rebel against the game, the big lady was all, "I'm unstoppable." Meanwhile, in the red-named main city, known as Extreme Evil City, the seller started whining about his bad luck, ending up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then he got spooked by some random dude who asked if he wanted to be eaten. This creepy dude was a long-tongued monster. The boy quickly got back to work, saying he was just talking to himself. With that, the long-necked creature decided to move on, grumbling about how the city ruler only lets them eat rule breakers. The freaked-out boy wished he could be like those top players. Even though he knew that even the elite traversers, sponsored by guilds, couldn't conquer a fierce trial, only to be proven wrong. The blonde one was totally shocked when someone actually passed a top-tier trial. After that, the system congratulated our hero for completing the fierce dungeon with style, earning him 5,000 points, a purple chest, 2 attribute points, and 2 level ups. And because the newbie pulled off this epic feat, the system gave him 10 spirit points, and the choice to go home or explore the Red City for a bit. Since he was number 1 on the evil list, our hero spawned inside the red-named main city. Seeing he got his right arm back, our hero realized all trial damages were wiped at the end. Looking at the extremely evil city, he found it kind of like the first safe zone. Our hero then decided to check out the purple chest. Inside, he found a purple skill called the Descent of the Demon, which lets the user go berserk while losing health and SP. The protagonist immediately realized this was some high-stakes power. Even so, he decided to learn it because power is power. The young man then checked the rest of his inventory, starting with the Wrapper of Ferocity, which constantly drained his health but gave him a fierce aura and boosted his firepower with each kill. Those awesome effects left our hero in awe. Liu Yao then decided to take a good look at his status window before summoning the Ferocious Ripper. Upon grabbing it, he immediately noticed his health dropping. Yet this weapon boosted his power rating from beginner to strong. Seeing how effective it was, the young man decided to pair it with health potions to make it more efficient. Only then was he spotted by one of the long-tongued monsters. This one was shocked to see the human using the aura of ferocity. It immediately felt overwhelmed by the young man's terrifying presence, and so it apologized for being rude and said it would leave, before running away like it was late for dinner. Seeing this, our hero decided to put down his blade to avoid more trouble. Only then was he called by another traverser, who suggested teaming up since they were both there because of their evil points. Liu Yao immediately recognized him as the seller from before. Seeing how the man was the protagonist, the scammer was super mad, blaming him for being sent to the red-named city. Our hero apologized, saying he didn't mean to and was just a beginner. But the blonde one was skeptical, as a beginner could never trigger a 6-star alarm, only for him to insist he was just as clueless, as it all happened so fast, and said he was looking for someone to explain this world. The seller agreed to spill the tea, He then explained how this world had 4 zone levels: paper, average, strong, and fierce, and trials teleported them randomly to a spot in this dimension. Safe zones offered full protection to travelers, where they could respawn after death without consequences. So paper zones had weak monsters and low risks, with only small equipment loss at death. Average zones had stronger creatures that dropped expensive green-grade gear upon dying, but you'd lose your entire inventory if you fell there, and strong areas had even more powerful monsters that dropped priceless blue gear, but dying there would result in serious mental damage. Which is why the blonde one warned our hero to wisely pick his trials. Alright, buckle up, because this story's about to get a glow up. Here we go. So those who totally crushed the tough level trials? Yeah, they made some epic sacrifices to nail the right strategies. Lu Yao then popped the question about the final level. The dude got all jittery, explaining how fierce levels were zones where the system's safety net was totally MIA, and even though they had those epic purple items, dying there meant game over, like, for real. Plus, they were locked zones, no player entry allowed. The seller was all no way when hearing someone actually beat a fierce dungeon. The main guy was all ears, super intrigued. He got told to chill about the last level since the red-named city was smacking a danger zone, meaning losing there was a major risk, like life on the line kind of deal. But hey, they could bounce back to the safe zone by ditching their evil points through tasks. Then they asked the newbie for his score. The newbie checked and was like, "Oh, I've got loads of points." Turns out his super evil points were off the charts, like infinite. Chaos was the vibe in the super evil city. Humans sent there were bottom tier, but they could still hustle some tasks to buy their way out. Then a monster in front of our hero was all, "Wanna come in?" The boy was like, "Nah, I'm good." But then, bam, monster hand impalement. The mummy was like, "If you come near my shop, you gotta buy something." The blonde dude said the monster NPCs in the city were anti-human, so they had to keep it low-key. Just as he was explaining the need to play it cool, he realized his new buddy had vanished. Lu Yao finally found a shop. His friend was like, "Dude, you're nuts." He even told him to bail before a monster spotted him. But shocker, the main guy ignored him and strolled into the monster's shop. Inside, he was on high alert. The shopkeeper's vibe flipped when he saw a human customer. Our hero was like, "I'm here for healing potions." The seller was down to sell, but for 500 points. But when he checked the labels, he was like, "Wait, it says 50 points. The monster was all, "Humans pay 10 times more, deal with it." He even laughed, saying the hero had no escape. Then the human locked the door. With a sly grin, he was like, "Guess you're stuck here." The green creature was super confused. Before he knew it, he was screaming in pain, sliced in half. He was shook by the fierce aura, totally freaked out as the boy closed in. Lu Yao was radiating this godly, fierce vibe. The monster was scared out of his wits. He argued that the city's lord would punish the human for offing a shop owner. The young guy found it interesting, thinking the lord wouldn't dig the merchant's prices. The monster, trying to defend himself, suddenly saw the blades getting closer. The human demanded all items at 1/10 of the price. The hostage had no choice but to agree, and just like that, the young guy left the shop with fresh gear. Lu Yao was sure the heist was all about self-defense. He was stoked, scoring loads of potions for a steal. Plus, he snagged the blue equipment Spectre Cloak, which hides your vibe from average and paper creatures, and even pops a smoke screen for just 800 points. He still had 4,500 points left, and just like that, he was getting more and more into the other world. Meanwhile, back on Earth, in a shop where a giant was grabbing groceries, the towering dude eyed the candy, reached out, and snagged one as his mark started glowing. On his way back, he got a text. The guy tried to say he wanted to dodge the 3 elders and chill with his daughter. But when he heard about someone beating a fierce level trial, Meng Xiaohua, who had conquered the strong level death train, was suddenly all serious. Meanwhile, the blonde dude was totally mind blown. He asked the main guy how he scored enough points to snag the pricey Spectre Cloak. So he explained how the shopkeeper was super generous with a discount. Yeah, this was wild to believe. The big scammer made the smaller one buy a piece from him for 500 points. This made the seller think he found a super rich dude he could totally use. So he suggested they team up in the future. Our hero, the client, was all, "Nah, not interested." But Jindali was like, "Nah, dude, you'd be more than just a sidekick." Then he went on to beg for a father-son bond with the main character, literally kneeling and begging for it. Our hero was just standing there, amazed at how shameless this guy was, but it made him laugh. So he suggested they become friends. And the 2 young dudes did a cool handshake, making them official buddies. Jindali then logged off, telling the protagonist to hit him up if he needed anything. And then he bounced. Meanwhile, our hero was curious about this new way of chatting between travelers. Then the system told him he'd be sent back to the real world soon. And just like that, he logged off, heading back to Earth. His next challenge was set for the same time the next day. Checking the time, Lu Yao realized every minute in the real world was like 10 in the other. He pulled out his health potion and was shocked he could bring it to the real world. So he chugged it and tossed the empty bottle, which vanished into thin air. Lu Yao then passed by the orphanage, which was super lively that night, but he didn't pay much attention and headed straight to the hospital. The orphans were stoked to see their big bro Lou with gifts, asking if he was happy with life. Jin was all, "Soon I will be." The little ones were curious, so he told them he found a new dad who was loaded. The kids laughed, saying he always tries this and fails every time. Jin scolded them, saying money's important and he needs to support them. Then he spotted a familiar face across the street. It was our hero, rocking pajamas. The nurse said they were worried sick about him, so he explained he went for a quick walk since his illness was incurable and time was ticking. With that, he happily escorted himself back to his room. The nurses felt bad for the handsome guy because despite his energy, he was battling this unknown illness. Meanwhile, our hero thought about all the health and mana potions he took, wondering if they'd help. He also thought about how the longer he stayed sick, the more he'd hallucinate. Opening the door, he was shocked. A stunning figure with pointy ears and horns was chilling on his bed. Despite the epic body and crazy looks in front of him, the patient stayed cool. The demon was even gaming on his console. The young man figured he was just seeing things because of his illness. He reached for his drawer and grabbed some pills. It was his first time hallucinating this hard. Seeing a demon on his bed playing 7 deadly sins and failing the first level. After losing the game, Sloth was super annoyed. The young man took his pills, thinking the demon would vanish soon. Then the console got shoved in his face. Sloth dared him to beat the level she couldn't. But to her surprise, she was suddenly poked, over and over, right in the chest. This really ticked her off. The protagonist thought his hallucinations were so real he could feel them. The demon was super annoyed by this clueless, goofy new source of chaos. Just as he started to get curious about her horns, a sudden wind swept through the hospital, howling down the halls. The nurses were worried as everything went dark. She gave him 3 seconds to stop being a creep, but she was so mad she skipped the countdown. Before she could attack, the young man begged for mercy, saying it was all for his console, pleading for a chance to make it right. A bit later, the lights flickered back on. The nurse came to check on the patient, who told her to chill outside because he was in his birthday suit. Boom, just like that, our hero totally owned Sloth in the game. Seeing her avatar looking all ghostly, she joked the game dev should be server food, but our hero teased her, saying her in-game look was even more bonkers. He explained that except for a few, humans usually see the unknown as spooky, not pretty. He instantly recognized the 4th show participant, Miss Sloth. She was amazed by his nerves of steel, saying that's why he survived the evil source unlike others. Leaving him shook, realizing all other skill wielders were still kicking. Sloth explained he was still in stage 1, meaning no squad yet and had to solo deadly dungeons. She said she popped into the real world to warn him about reckless trial runs, promising they'd meet again. Luya was curious about the evil source, thinking it linked to his sickness, and asked if all her kind could reality hop. She reassured him she was different and had to bounce soon to avoid some big shots. She also said he'd learn more about his power on the way, before telling him to stay alive and let her leave. This hit him that he had to keep moving forward. He also wondered if the console was left behind on purpose. The system called it a game where owners struggled to beat the final boss, which could summon them, leaving him annoyed since he helped a lot. The text detailed the adventurer's tasks in this tough level trial that our level 3 hero entered. Winning would get a blue chest but reset skills and lose items. With that, the young dude was free to enjoy the game, turning on anonymous mode for his first multiplayer. Our hero reached the gates, bringing his employee textbook to the plaza before time ran out, and after a quick peek at the book, he opened the door just as the time limit hit 0. He found himself among many other traversers, who seemed more experienced and had cooler gear. He then shut the door behind him and tried to weave through the other traversers. Seeing he was level 3, one player thought they'd lose, but another said noobs usually team with pros. Then one of the pros burst into the room. It was level 10 Zhangkun of the Azure Dragon, aka the Mottled Blade, who told his team not to slow him down. Someone judged him for turning off anonymous mode, but another said it was his right as a powerful Azure Dragon member. The Mottled Blade claimed he'd beaten this trial before and told others to listen to him for victory. Everyone agreed to follow his lead, and he talked about how average players fear these dungeons. Then something caught his eye. The level 10 player pointed at the level 3. Our hero was puzzled. The tall guy asked about his level. Seeing how newbies were usually in paper tier trials, he explained it must be bad luck. Zhang Kun agreed to let him join, but told him not to be deadweight. Just as our hero thought this mission would be a breeze, the human's best asset got headshot. Everyone was horrified, as the glasses shattered while their powerful wielder met his end. Then the shooter welcomed the traversers to the Yellow Spring Express, saying he did them a favor by taking out the latecomer who broke the rules with his tardiness. With that, the old man welcomed his new workers with open arms. Everyone was stunned as a level 10 player got taken out in one hit. The old dude reassured them, saying employees couldn't rebel against the manager according to the handbook, which they could read any time. This made our hero realize that the manager's authority was absolute, meaning he could easily take out any player. The manager then told his crew they had 3 deliveries to make, with blue ones being easy and red ones being tough. He said they only needed to nail 3 deliveries to pass this trial, and just like that, the main quest kicked off. One of the players, Emily, grabbed a red order thinking it'd be a breeze, but surprise, it asked him to slap a strong level boss called Shadow Demon Wolf. Everyone laughed as he refused to do the ridiculous task. But then he was shocked as he was suddenly shot down. The magic made it clear they couldn't back down from deliveries, and they just had to accept it. The manager then explained how he hated rule breakers. He promised not to hurt them if they did their jobs right before starting the game and mentioning a time limit. The players were freaked out by the red sheets as they were impossible missions, but suddenly someone said they got an easy one. The player who threw out a blue sheet was Tasco, delivering dinner to room 306. Now, with the package in hand, he decided to go first, rushing towards the exits. The other players started looking at each other as this one carefully left the room. Seeing how the rules only said you had to finish a mission you accepted meant players could steal others' tasks. At that moment, the Chun-Li fan demanded to see our hero's notebook. Liu Yao immediately realized it was one of those ganging up on the newbie moments. One guy said he had nothing to lose as a beginner, while another suggested trading. This really interested the protagonist. Back then, when hanging with Sloth, he asked her about sharing evil points to enter easier trials. She confirmed, saying this would also make trials harder for those he shared with, and he'd face tougher challenges as the evil source. She was also amazed by how unfazed he was by this unfair reality. Back to now, he agreed to trade with the others, opening his notebook to reveal a red sheet. The disappointed hunters were baffled by the paper. Our hero then started flipping through his notebook, leaving them even more baffled as he had tons of orders. And as he showed the last page, he said again he was open to trade. Everyone was stunned as he had a completely red notebook. So when he asked again if anyone wanted to swap orders, the three players backed off, saying they didn't want to anymore. Everyone started moving away from the hero, fearing his bad luck. Even so, he wasn't bothered by this solitude. At that moment, a clap was heard. The manager congratulated him for being the first to have 3 red orders, but said it was bad luck since he was still too weak. Liu Yao decided to ask the entertained one a question. The manager stayed firm but agreed to give one answer, and not one more. The young man pointed out how the old dude was indirectly trying to make players pick easy orders and leave the hard ones, meaning he had something to lose if a player managed to complete 3 red orders at once. This left him quite intrigued, as it was explained how completing 3 tough missions would put him in a tough spot, which is why he was happy to see them in the hands of a weakling. The old dude was impressed as this one had the right mix of talent and ego. So he confirmed that the harder the task, the better the reward, and asked the hero if he had more questions. But this one declined, saying he didn't want to end up like that. As the manager said, he'd only answer one question. This left him interested as his plan had been discovered. Even so, he wasn't surprised by the one who survived the fierce level dating show. While walking out, a voice was suddenly heard, illuminated by a bald head declaring it had 3 blue papers and demanding to trade. The giant dude was all, no way the hero's surviving 3 red orders, and he was ready to snatch them to keep himself safe. Our hero was instantly on high alert. Turns out he was a secret level 15 warrior, Manhwa. He knew this name, a total legend at clearing tough trials. The blonde guy had mentioned him before. The big guy noticed the young dude knew him and asked what he was going to do. Liu Yao whipped out his notebook, making it seem like he was going to play along, but surprise, he ripped up the red paper, taking on the mission himself. The young dude started walking away, saying it was a total accident, but then he got called back to stand still. Meng Xiaohua was fuming, charging at the guy who dared to mock him, ready to teach him a lesson. But then the young dude summoned his blade, leaving Meng Xiaohua totally confused. Liu Yao asked the big guy what he wanted to teach him. The big guy chuckled a bit, then said he wanted to show him he could bargain with someone as powerful as him, but was secretly scared of his weapon. Our hero played along, knowing the experienced player was terrified of his giant scissors. And then they both started laughing, thinking the worst of each other. And with that, they said their goodbyes. The level 15 warrior decided to find another red paper holder for a bigger reward. But first, he had to deal with the annoyances around him. He claimed that even though the trial was tough, players were bold to even come near him. One of them said the will of the 3 elders was absolute, and taking down the level 15 warrior in the trial would be even better, charging at him, only to get grabbed by the face to everyone's shock. Meng Xiaohua, who held a hunter in the air, pointed out his opponent's weaknesses before finally letting go of the guy's skull from his crushing grip. And as the guy started to fade away, someone pointed out he had the power of Muscle Dominator. The big guy confirmed it, charging at his opponent from above to snatch their red orders. Meanwhile, Liu Yao was at school, delivering a lost doll to the strong-level madwoman, making him think he had to deliver a missing item. The doll's description was super shady. Our hero pointed out how unprofessional Yellow Spring was, as the doll wasn't in any package and had a poor description. When he got to the address, he wondered if it was the madwoman's house. He rang the bell, saying he was there to deliver something to the madwoman. Liu Yao then waited quietly for a response, only to be met with a terrifying scream. That left him totally shook. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a hunter was supposed to deliver food and got thanked for his services. But he was confused, being tied up despite completing the task. The wolf in sheep's clothing said the amount he brought wasn't enough, and adding his flesh to the meal would really complete it. At the same time, another hunter had to deliver temple bells to Changshang Temple and got thanked by the monk. But the many weapons pointed at her made her super curious about this form of thankfulness. Meanwhile, the young dude was chugging a potion while running for his life from the madwoman, unable to contact the outside world. She was determined to take him down. Then he spotted a door ahead and quickly reached to open it. And just before he could get stabbed in the back, he managed to slam the door shut behind him. The woman screamed for Xiao Xiao. Seeing her banging on the door like crazy, he realized he needed a plan to save himself when it broke. The young dude was surprised. The room he entered was different from the rest of the creepy house. The door was slowly giving in. He then spotted 8 child's drawings. They seemed like a gift from a daughter to a mother. He turned around and saw a calendar about the little girl's missing days. As he flipped through the pages, he realized the little one had been missing for ages. And just as he reached a certain month, something yellow appeared. It then fell from the calendar. It was a business card saying Yellow Spring Express could hook you up with anything you wanted. Our hero found this hilarious, thinking it was totally fake. Just then, a knife sliced through the door. Luyo realized he had to chill her out to hand over the doll properly. So, he peeked inside the wardrobe. With that, he decided to try something wild. At that moment, the mom busted into the room, but her rage vanished when she saw what was in front of her. The evil dude had turned into a fanboy, pretending to be the madwoman's daughter. The woman instantly thought it was her grown-up daughter, and rushed to hug her kid, hoping she was still alive. Even so, the madman said it wasn't true, as he gently took the knife from her hand and stabbed himself in the gut, leaving her in disbelief. Before it all kicked off, a figure approached the little girl. She turned around and was totally freaked out. Seconds later, blood covered the grass and the doll. Later that day, when the mom came to get her kid, she was horrified, finding nothing but a pool of blood. Now, in the arms of the devastated mom, our hero used his words to bring her back to sanity. Back then, the lady was welcome to Yellow Spring Express. The manager said they could deliver anything her heart wanted, so the woman asked if he'd seen her daughter, giving him a picture and description. To her shock, the man said he'd spotted her, so she begged him for more information. The man said she had to pay a price for his delivery services. The woman immediately got on her knees, begging for her daughter back. With that, the entity activated his powers, saying the lady would have to go mad to get her daughter back soon, saying she had great potential for their business. Back to now, the miserable woman was begging again. Luya was shocked to see her resisting his charm powers. The woman said her daughter vanished when she woke up, so she'd rather stay asleep. Our hero felt bad for her sad state, and just as he was lost in her grief, the mom was then called. At first, she thought it was her daughter, but inside, it was an adult man pretending, leaving her super annoyed. Luya congratulated her on snapping out of madness, saying she was denying she'd woken up long ago. This left her totally confused. Lu Yao explained how his manager sent him to give her the doll, asking her to think about what that meant. The man then pointed out she could either stay in denial or count on others, before asking her to take the doll and leave a high-star review. And just like that, our hero nailed his first red delivery, doubling his final rewards. And with that, he decided to make his exit. Only then was he stopped by the mom asking if her daughter had really left this world. So he said she'd have to see for herself. Shortly after, the curtains finally opened. The mom was determined to go find her child. At that very moment, the figure of the mad woman shattered. Upon picking it up, the manager felt disappointed as it was a pretty interesting story. So he decided to move on to the next scene, asking Xiao Xiao if she agreed. The creature replied with a creepy sound. Shortly after, in the Yellow Spring Fitness Center, a chubby guy was stoked to finally get his weight loss medicine. But when he opened the package, all he saw was a tasty meal. And just like that, the gymnast found himself overwhelmed by hunger and crazed by his own appetite. He dove face first into the package, getting up with a rumbling stomach. The creature, still hungry, spotted a delivery guy. This one bolted as fast as he could, but the high-level hunger walker caught him to make him his next meal. Meanwhile, in this included garden, the Chun-Li cosplayer was horrified. The high-level jade-faced bride who had taken out 3 players reassured him, saying she just wanted to ask a question, claiming she wanted to know about the love letter. Yet as soon as the dude said he had no clue about it, the lady called him useless, then cursed him with a death so scary it could make a ghost jump. This left the delivery drivers with bad reviews dropping like flies. Meng Xiaohua was shook by how tough the easy tasks were, making him think he'd score more points doing the hard stuff, but he only snagged 1. The muscle egg had to deliver love to the king of the abyss, which he thought was a joke. Only then did he hear a rustle from the bushes. He froze, thinking it was a monster. The guy went to check it out, and found a grown man behind the bushes taking off his dress, leaving him totally confused. Only then did the young dude realize he'd been spotted. He left the bald giant stunned by how chill he was about it. Meng noticed the outstanding employee badge above the young dude's head, meaning he nailed a tough order. Lu Yao said his task was a cosplay contest with the client, which he won easy peasy. He offered the dress to the grown man to try on, but he was like, "Nah, I'm good." The level 15 started thinking the rookie who finished a red order and had a super weapon must have cleared a tough trial, so he suggested teaming up to tackle the rest of the tasks. Meng explained that monsters with bad reviews go after other players, so teaming up was smart. He even showed his red sheet to the hero as a peace offering, and was surprised by the hero's reaction. Liu Yao decided to show his own paper. Turns out they both had to deliver to the King of the Abyss. Their chat got cut off by a sudden scream as the Hunger Walker was closing in. Seeing this, Meng suggested he'd handle the monster while the paper-level hero made the delivery. But to his surprise, the hero wasn't down with that plan. Liu Yao said there was a way for both to escape without losing anything. The bald guy was annoyed by how OP all the NPCs were in this trial. And even more annoyed, he couldn't show his secret weapon in front of the hero. Meng reminded Liu Yao he could bail first if he wanted, as he had his own way to beat the monster. But Liu Yao was ready. What Baldy saw next blew his mind. Only then did the beast catch their scent. And where it thought it had found its next meal, it found a scary creature standing over a defeated hunter. The scary one then spotted the blob and thought it wanted to steal its food. The freaked out monster said that wasn't the case, and said it was leaving ASAP. Just like that, the strong level creature bolted. In reality, our hero used his specter cloak to trick the creature and look all-powerful. With the blob gone, Meng was free to move. The bald giant decided to befriend the young dude, seeing how scary he'd be as an enemy, so Liu Yao agreed. He was then puzzled when asked for healing items. Sometime later, Meng explained to Liu Yao how blue orders, though supposedly easy, were actually super hard and always got bad reviews, saying he once did this trial with friends and barely escaped a monster mayhem. The hero instantly realized red orders were the key to a perfect score, and now with his new teammate he was ready to speed through the tasks. Meanwhile, 3 players were running, confused because even after finishing the task, they were being chased by their client, the high-level burrowing demon, who went nuts. This made them think the problem was with the package, which turned out to be pesticide. Only then did they spot someone ahead. At first, they wanted to run to him, hoping he'd become the monster's new target. But to their shock, he was running towards them. The man then dashed between them, yelling for help. Shortly after, a scary shadow with giant scissors appeared in front of the hunters. So they dove into the bushes to hide. The menacing giant centipede that saw the shadow did the same thing. And so, as the danger zoomed past, the chasers and chases were left totally relieved. With that out of the way, the wild chase kicked off again. Meng was blown away by how the monsters were running from his buddy and asked if his outfit screamed, "Boss mode." Liu Yao chugged his health potion and said it was just his natural charm, making the muscle egg wonder if he was even human. Meanwhile, at the Temple of Eternal Life, the bell was delivered, letting the player crush the red task. The lady was shocked by how tough the red ones were, taking her loads of effort to finish. But when she saw it got her a promotion, she thought, hey, maybe this is the way to go. Then Zhou Pang got a call from the Guild of the Three Elders for a sweet gig they had. The 3 weirdos weren't shocked that the girl player nailed a red task solo. Zhou Pang asked about the job and the loot, so the girl said she'd get a blue item for taking down the bald giant. Leaving her curious about this beef with Meng Xiaohua, the guild then decided to sweeten the deal, leaving her even more curious. They promised 2 blue items for finding the fierce trial conqueror, but Zhou Pang turned it down, saying she only does assassination gigs. The weirdo thought the strong one would spare the muscle egg since they were old pals. She confirmed, saying he was an old buddy she fought alongside, and she owed him big time. So she asked the Guild of the Three Elders to up her pay. Soon after, our heroes rocked up at the delivery spot. Just as the egg started wondering about the client, they got called out by a voice from the tree. The creature called them out for trespassing on its turf, glaring at them from above. Liu Yao was shook when he saw the monster leap from a hiding spot and land right in front of them. The King of the Abyss said he hated humans. Meng explained they were just there to deliver what he wanted, and so it asked if they had its missing part, leaving the bald giant totally confused. The monster explained how his eye got snatched by a sneaky human while he was munching lunch, and since it was guarded by a fierce level beast, it didn't dare chase him. The humans found this hard to swallow, saying a fierce level monster had no reason to shield a human. But the King of the Abyss ignored them and said he demanded his eye back from Yellow Spring Express. So he told the travelers to either cough up his eye or face his wrath. Then the party got interrupted. Zhou Pang greeted her old buddy right away. When asked about their connection, Meng said she was an ally who'd sell her soul for cash. The girl took it as a compliment, and even asked her friend to let her take him out since the elders had put a big bounty on his head. At that moment, our hero tried to talk things out, offering a generous deal to let them duke it out since he was just a newbie. Zhou Pang said she was also tasked with taking out the man's crew, and pointed out how the protagonist seemed pretty seasoned to her. With that, Liu Yao decided to whip out Plan B, saying he'd handle the intruders with the King of the Abyss, leaving the monster puzzled, and the girl too. The King of the Abyss was curious since the hooded one was supposed to be with the humans. At that moment, he revealed himself, and told the monster they were all buddies. The beast was totally baffled, remembering how the humans started it all. snatching his eye and hiding behind a powerful entity. Upon meeting him again, the monster exploded in rage and charged at him. The Guild of the Three Elders thought the young dude was nuts for diving into the lion's den. Lu Yao then pointed out that the monster hadn't changed. Only then did the King of the Abyss notice his target was oddly chill. He asked why he stopped the attack, making the creature think he was trying to provoke him into attacking, as the fierce level woman was lurking nearby. He decided to befriend the one who took his eye. Everyone was totally shook by the wild plot twist. Lu Yao asked the monster to help him take down the enemy. But the creature was like, "Nah, we're outnumbered, dude." So our hero decided to show him something epic. The King of the Abyss was stoked to see his eye again, since the hero promised it as a reward for helping. Lu Yao said he'd give it to the high-level entity if he dared to refuse, and even ask her for another eye. And with that, the monster was down to help once he got his missing body part back. Boom, the protagonist nailed his second red order, leveling up to supervisor. Now he could kind of resist the manager's power and its one-shot ability, scoring triple rewards at the trial's end. With that, Lu Yao unleashed his new buddy, who charged at the humans, leaving them totally freaked out. Lu Yao told the king to have a blast before he bounced, as he started tearing through the guild members like a boss. The girl urged the mercenary to act, seeing how fast the opponent was. But to her shock, this dude was quietly sneaking away. Zhou Pang said she'd follow the protagonist while they distracted the monster. Only then did she spot a giant figure above her head, dodging its massive punch at the last second. Even so, the girl didn't escape unscathed, calling out her friend and using a blue skill against her. Meng wanted the assassin to leave Lu Yao alone. This made her realize that such interest in the protagonist meant the guy had some secret plans, leaving her even more curious, as she vanished, leaving behind a straw doll. Meng Xiaohua was ticked off since it was a life-saving item. Meanwhile, while making a run for it, the hero thought about how his new friend always wanted something from him. Yet he'd always be in a tricky spot if he retreated at the right time. And with that, he took on the last order, which was delivering a laugh to a client named Cry at the Yellow Spring Station. The madwoman regained her sanity before taking down the genius. The King of the Abyss was supposed to get his revenge, but surprise events unfolded. This really annoyed the manager since things weren't going as planned. He was also surprised by the appearance of a supervisor who could resist his authority. Even so, the manager insisted things should have gone his way, being the true mastermind, claiming that pawns shouldn't stray too far from the king's will. And just like that, the weaker pieces' orders started failing one by one. With each death, a form of black energy was released. This super evil energy that the manager was absorbing from his lame employees wasn't enough. He then turned to the nearby Cries, and told the entity he'd let it loose soon. He revealed how a supervisor with tons of evil points could enter fierce trials, claiming he needed a bit more to reach fierce level. Even so, he'd have to wait for the young man to fail his last order, to break free from this trial. Meanwhile, in the forest where the guild members were taken out, the monster told the humans that death was all they could expect from his wrath, before turning to the bald giant and praising him for his strength. Only then did the giant monster feel a weird sensation. Meng immediately wanted to check on him. The King of the Abyss explained it was due to Yellow Spring, as the manager could control clients who weren't satisfied with their orders, and he had two still incomplete. Meng said he was there to fulfill the second demand, leaving the love-seeking monster horrified, as a giant bald man promised to do everything to give him love. The king tried to argue, only to be suddenly grabbed by the face and pulled in for a kiss, and just like that, the creature got smooched without consent. Despite being weirded out at first, he accepted the love of the 7-foot man, completing the second order and promoting the delivery driver to outstanding employee. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, our hero was baffled by the monsters losing control. He then turned to the one following him, saying she should have been on his ally's tracks. The assassin said she had to beat him first, so the young dude asked her to spill the tea. She said she didn't know her friend's motive. But since the top 100 players became shameless for power, the top 10 were basically monsters with zero chill. Lu Yao asked why she was even talking to him. She calmly said she was there to check his worth. Later, inside the safe zone, guild members were salty because their levels got reset. The girl hit up her crew, who were all that, leaving her super annoyed. Her sidekick tried to argue that the merc was still kicking and could finish the job, so he texted her. But when she sent the message, she was shocked to see the system didn't consider them friends anymore. And with that, she punched the blonde one with all her might, mad that she got blocked by an assassin trying to snag the bounty for herself, which made no sense to the green one since she was one of the rankers. The captain explained all rankers did some shady stuff to get strong while thinking of how to tell the higher-ups they failed. Only then did her other crew show up, wanting to show her a video they just snagged, and it featured a player with a ton of elite gear. The one with glasses guessed this might be the fierce trial clear the elders were hunting for, but the captain didn't care and wanted to use the footage for her report. So she decided to alert the guild leader about a big discovery found in the Yellow Spring Express. Meanwhile, on the trial map, Jopong asked the young dude to stop running, saying she meant no harm, even though she planned to sell him for a sweet reward. She then told him about the bounty the three elders put on the fierce trial clearer's head, and as she leaped into the air, landing gracefully in front of our hero, she said he might be the one she's after. Jopong said he could never outrun her because she's way faster. Lu Yao asked what she'd do if he was the culprit. The girl said she'd make him an offer, summoning her weapon and proposing to split the reward equally. Our hero was shocked by the rifle's appearance. Even so, Jopong said she was a magician, before using her skill Arsenal Caster to prep a spell, and shot the protagonist with it, boosting his speed for 10 minutes. Lu Yao was amazed to see himself getting a speed boost. She then asked if he was curious about her friendly moves, so the girl explained how players had to play against the map and team up to win. Our hero asked her real intentions, so she said he must want more than the promised reward, pointing out how he was the only one who could stand up to the one-shot manager, being a supervisor, making him key to clearing this trial, before saying he should just bail if he ever finds himself in danger. With that, the young dude finally got what she meant. Soon after, we see our hero opening the door. The one with teary eyes was confused, as a small crying figure sat on the ground. The creature turned to the humans, charging at him with its dark eyes crying blood. The terrifying life form screamed as loud as possible, which really intrigued our hero. Lu Yao then decided to cheer it up, but just as he was about to, something unexpected happened, as he was hit with a wave of sadness, realizing he was in a tough spot as this must be the entity's skill, which was screaming in agony. Lu Yao was left baffled as the monster invited him to a playdate. The creature wanted to explore the protagonist's subconscious, and was shocked to see it looked like a hospital and that its new playmate had his share of struggles. It then asked to explore the human's fears and pains. He quickly agreed, letting the horrifying entity do so, before turning into one himself. The monster was terrified by the agonizing memories it saw, which shouldn't belong to a human, only for the hero to say those weren't his darkest yet, and so he decided to let the monster fully dive into the true depths of his past. The kid-like monster was sprinting through a maze, dodging creepy demonic creatures. Our hero was pumped, finally finding someone who got his struggles. The monster was totally freaking out, falling off the dude's back, and bolting away like it was in a race. Lu Yao was all, "Come back, I got more cool stuff to show." But the monster dashed into a room, slamming the door behind it. The monster started bawling for its mom, thinking it met a real demon. Then, bam, a loud knock on the door. Our hero, wielding his epic purple blade, barged in, asking the terrified creature if its pain was really that unusual. Meanwhile, the manager was all about sad stories, loving when joy turns into torment and agony. The entity said the baby-like creature could dig up miserable memories to take down opponents. But when they checked on the monster, it was super scared. The creature, known as Cry, kept screaming, telling the human to scram, then tossed something at him. Our hero looked down, puzzled, and saw a familiar toy, reminding him of the one he gave to the madwoman. He realized the monster was actually Xiao Xiao, the madwoman's missing daughter. The name rang a bell for the creature, who asked about its mom, only to get hit with a massive headache. The young man rushed to help the little girl, who said her head hurt. Then, out of nowhere, a string popped out of her skin. The protagonist tried to dodge the string, but got hit, and fell to the ground. Suddenly, more wires shot out of the girl's back. Lu Yao dodged like a ninja, trying to escape danger. After dodging all the wires, he took a breather, relieved that the assassin's buff still had time left. But he realized he was tricked as his blade was sealed away. Then someone entered, saying they planted wires in Cry as a last offense. The manager noted the hero's blades were his strongest asset, so it was better to take them away. He apologized for crying, as Cry's power was too strong even for him. He reminded everyone to mind their manners at work. Lu Yao thought it was a random inspection, but the old man said he was just curious about his work, apologizing for the little creature's behavior, saying it was just a kid, and offered his supervisor a seat. The old man asked if the young one wanted to chat about something else, and he was open for questions. This pleased the manager, as violence was bad for the workplace. The confused boy asked what he meant, so the old man asked about the most crucial thing in business, saying it was demand. One must always ensure the customer needs something. He revealed he was exploiting the child who could see others' fears, bringing them to life. Some clients feared getting fat, like the walker chasing the lively owner at night. As for the bride of Jade, who loved her looks, he took away her beauty. She found herself facing a tall player, Ming, who was super annoyed he couldn't beat the final boss of this trial, as he couldn't get 3 red orders. When asked about the evil value, our hero said he knew a bit, explaining that while evil points were annoying for travelers, they were like nutrition for his kind, meaning each time a player failed a trial, it grew in power. The old man held the baby with his strings, saying if it killed the player, it would let him consume the evil value, getting him closer to fierce rank. After spilling all the beans, the entity asked the protagonist if he liked his ways. The manager expressed how curious he was about the horrors the little one saw in the human's mind, and politely suggested unveiling them. "Alright, buckle up, because this story's about to get wild, eh?" So the manager was all, "Nah, I'm good," preferring to stay clueless. claiming the traversers said ignorance is bliss. Then he handed the kid a gun, like, here, end it all. Boom, the world went kaboom. But the manager was all curious, because the kid used a console as a shield. Lu Yao, being the wise guy, gave the manager some pro tips while activating a magic item. He was all, watch out for those secret weapons, as he used a one-time console to summon Sloth. But plot twist, the system was like, sorry, Sloth's on a break, leaving him in a pickle. The manager was secretly relieved and unleashed his minions. But before they could even scratch the kid, most of them got wiped out, like instantly. Lu Yao was living his best life with the real demon weapon, not some knockoff. It was just a pillow, but hey, it worked. Seeing this, the manager was like, fine, I'll handle this myself. The kid told the pillow to handle it, and it zoomed at the manager, slicing through strings like a hot knife through butter. The manager got smacked into a wall by a pillow, no less. The kid was free, and he grabbed his weapon, hyping up the demonic item. It was called the Eternal Slumber, a pillow that heals and attacks once a day. The console vanished, but the kid was chill because it did its job. He turned his attention to the scared kid, hiding behind a chair. Then green strings popped up again. The kid tried to fend them off with his blade, but there were too many, so he bolted. Lu Yao was shocked to see the manager still kicking. The old dude was like, nice job making me use my secret weapon, which he was saving for the evil squad. Strings went wild, and threads started coming out of the manager's mouth. Jopeng was confused, but figured it was her new ally's power. Meanwhile, during Baldeg's fight, his opponent face-planted, and he saw green power inside. Xiao was freaked out as the manager's magic reached her. The manager was all, you're worthy of my true power, even if it was a waste. He was ready to take the kid down to level 1. Lu Yao called him out for cheating when losing. Just as the monster was about to unleash its fury, something crashed through the window. A monster with a knife showed up, using a smaller creature as a shield. It screamed and charged at the manager. The old guy was annoyed, trying to use strings to stop it, but the monster cut them all and grabbed the kid, pushing the manager away. The woman threw the baby out of harm's way, but got pierced by threads. Lu Yao recognized her as the grieving mother. He knew she wouldn't last long and had to figure out how to complete his final mission. The kid was feeling down as usual. Then boom, it was called out by the hero who just wanted to see a happy face. So he grabbed his blade to use it on his own mouth. And just like that, our hero carved a smile into his face to finish his third and final task. The winner then pointed out how the loser was just a pawn, totally overwhelmed by emotions, seeing how she had gone all out with a storm of attacks. And with that, he casually tossed his old toy aside, letting it crash into the wall. The entity then revealed that he is the boss of this place. Even the fiercest creatures would struggle to beat him on his own turf, but he admitted he'd have to deal with the annoying task of finding new clients after the fight. The manager then declared he'd take the evil points from all the other monsters, just like he did with the madwoman. And with that, he started the process. But just as he was about to become all-powerful and almighty, he ran into some technical issues. The system said he couldn't reach out to the clients because there were 2 managers in the place, and there could only be 1. This left the entity totally confused, as a cry would never smile. The new manager apologized to the old one, before asking if he wanted to quit the job. Now with his new rank, our hero had access to some perks and 5 times the promised rewards, as the system urged him to be the only manager standing. The man had to admit he failed to see the protagonist's skills, yet he still claimed the hero was too weak for his power, which was almost at the fierce level, charging at him, wanting to be the sole manager again. Our hero agreed with the logic, but said their customers should have a say in it. The big guy showed up just in time to stop the old manager's threads. The entity wasn't impressed, thinking this creature was as powerful as he was. Then it got hit by a triple ring spell called the Berserk Technique, letting the monster go into a fit of red rage, leaving the manager baffled as he lost control over him. The big guy then grabbed the threads and pulled them towards him to pull off a powerful move that let him toss the old manager, while the protagonist watched in silence. The creature then pulled the entity closer to punch it in the face, sending it flying into the wall at a crazy speed. Jopeng was impressed by the beginner's power and asked to be friends. Lu Yao immediately agreed. The manager quickly got up, saying strength alone wasn't enough to take him down, only to be grabbed from behind. He was super annoyed as even the Jade Bride had turned against him. And with that, she asked the officer to proceed. At that moment, Manhwa walked towards the old manager. The hero was confused by her calling him officer, so Peng explained it might be because of his forbidden move, the most powerful among travelers. She then urged the hero to look away. The monster then asked the human about its fate. He explained how his power was muscle manipulation, letting him strengthen any muscle he wanted, with the power output depending on the muscle itself. When asked about the strongest human muscle, the monster was horrified, realizing it was the tongue, which according to its wielder, destroyed everyone it crossed paths with. Because the man loved his body so much, one muscle would get a huge boost, growing in power along with the skill itself, and the muscle in question was none other than the tongue. Due to the mechanism, the giant man's tongue became longer and got a slowing effect, plus good penetration. The Jade Bride testified that the ranker's tongue was truly delightful, and the manager tried to bargain for his life, only to be hit with a storm of licks. That left the other two humans pretty grossed out, and so the aggressor started trying out different positions, which horrified the hero. Jobung said this goofy attack was like a 70% finisher. This term seemed totally new to the young man, so she explained it referred to a move that could easily wipe out 70% of any target's HP, but had a bunch of weird conditions to meet in exchange. According to her, Mung was now using his finisher, which could only be used once every trial. At that moment, the dude gave his final lick, making the old manager let out one last scream, like a cat getting a bath. Jopung then pointed out how annoying it must be to fight the licker, saying it was too embarrassing even for the three elders. And with the manager's dramatic exit, the quest was complete, letting the humans head back to the trial scene in 60 seconds, like a microwave countdown. With everything sorted, they were ready to roll with the French request, urging the hero not to pick up bad habits from the third one, who was a bit of a wild card, thinking of him as more reliable than Mung. Jopung then asked about the injury on his mouth. He was left puzzled when the guy said he did it to make a kid smile, like a superhero with a weird origin story. Meanwhile, the mad woman was stuck, unable to move, while the crying black creature rushed to wake her up like a tiny alarm clock, wanting to know why she came to rescue her. The little one asked a mad woman about her mom. Only then did a gentle hand touch her face, and the mad woman was stoked to see the kid had grown up. At that moment, she realized hot tears were streaming down the mom's face, as she remembered a happy time with her daughter. And so finally, after all the drama and chaos, mother and child were reunited, like a heartwarming movie ending. Upon seeing this, the assassin couldn't help but cry, thinking of herself as a softie. So Mung explained that the black child's ability was behind this emotional outburst. Jopung was relieved, having feared she caught feelings, before suggesting teaming up with the beginner for the next trial, seeing how talented he was. With 5 seconds left before the trial ended, the giant suggested meeting up in the main city, where he'd ask the protagonist. And with that, Liu Yao bid them farewell. As they logged out, feeling like a weight was lifted, he then turned to the entity, urging it to drop the act, seeing how the other travelers had left. The monster was annoyed that the manager survived, and curious about Liu Yao sticking around after finishing the trial. So he explained how he was roaming the game, searching for a way to save his own life, like a digital Indiana Jones. He also said it would be wrong to leave the manager after finding out he was the mastermind. At that moment, the hidden quest about the truth of Yellow Spring Express officially kicked off. For completing the trial and becoming the manager, our hero was now up for some epic rewards and a cool title. But refusing the manager gig and exposing Yellow Spring's reality for the hidden quest would change the reward. Even so, the young man decided to go for it, meaning he'd stay on the map a bit longer, as the system wished him good luck. Shortly after, the entity pointed out how unique he was, even among travelers, as he began speaking from a random puppet, calling out Liu Yao by his first name. Liu Yao was intrigued by how familiar this guy was with him. The entity immediately called him out for his ego, recognizing him as the dating show survivor, and even claimed to know his hidden tricks. Like his hypnotizing skill needing physical contact, which the young man didn't deny, he was also familiar with his giant scissors, capable of harming fierce-level monsters. The old manager then pointed out the young man's high evil value, allowing him to enter fierce trials, which is why he kept tabs on him. Liu Yao tried to provoke the creature, speaking through a puppet. And just as it was about to take the bait, it quickly regained its cool, only to be stabbed in the head by the Bride of Jade, like a plot twist in a thriller. The monsters were confused as the human explained how this wasn't the true enemy, claiming the deceased manager was just a vessel. At that moment, the mastermind took control of another puppet, praising them for their quick thinking that let them take his spot. The traveler then pointed out how the real mastermind was foreshadowed at the start of this adventure, as the one who feeds off the needs of his customers must be the greediest of all. According to the protagonist, the true enemy was none other than the will of the delivery service, feeding off failed orders to become all-powerful. At that moment, the many broken dolls began to rise from the ground, like a creepy Toy Story. The enraged fat one immediately charged at them, ready to rumble, but was left totally puzzled when a torn puppet latched onto his leg, stopping him mid-charge. The mom quickly recalled her weapon, pointing out how the puppets had leveled up in power. The entity then spilled the tea to the human, saying desire is the real deal for all life forms, a nature that's usually tied down by rules and moral senses. And while the entity played by those rules, our hero was different. He was a wild card with zero restrictions, making him the perfect pick to be the next manager of Yellow Spring. The puppet started wrapping the human with strings, hyping up his massive evil vibes and suggesting they become one super powerful being. But the protagonist knew he'd just be a pawn, so he tried to argue that, unlike it, traversers couldn't tap into that evil vibe. Yet Liu Yao was like, nah, that's not true. Then he unleashed demonic descent. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, lightning bolts lit up the sky. 2 hunters were sprinting for their lives from the centipede. They were confused since the manager hadn't shown up to scold them for their failed mission. Then one of them spotted something in the sky. It had white hair and a dark aura. Just like that, a demon holding purple scissors appeared. Seeing this, the entity was totally shook. He was witnessing a human using the evil vibe. Our hero decided to drop his 10-link technique, Life Reaper, to unleash a mega attack. That caused a jaw-dropping amount of damage. Meanwhile, inside the evil realm, Sloth was enjoying a chill nap. Then the cheese sensed something weird. The sleepyhead called it a fierce level aura. Back to the fight scene, the Yellow Spring Express building vanished. The mom did her best to shield her kid, and yet the little one didn't budge. A stone was flipped over. The chubby blob freed himself from the rubble, while the Bride of Jade couldn't believe she survived. The monsters were stunned by the destruction the young man caused. When asked about the culprit, the two immediately went on high alert, but were left baffled as this was the sin of Sloth, who then demanded a full report on the recent events. After hearing everything, the annoyed one decided to head to Earth to confront the protagonist. The two were relieved not to be toast. Then someone came rushing to Sloth. It was none other than the mad woman. Begging for her child's life, she bowed, saying she was ready to do anything for her kid. Sloth explained that darkness was the core of the little one's existence, and since this darkness vanished, it was only natural for her to fade away too. This news crushed the mom. Sloth couldn't handle it, and decided to give her a gift, handing her a strange item. It turned out to be the blue tier Azure Lantern, which lets you absorb soul energy and use it as you please. In the end, the demon explained that this item needed someone to sacrifice their life, but even then, the target would lose its memories. She asked the mom to think hard before making up her mind, knowing the consequences of selling her soul. And with that, the mad woman cried one last time, then triggered the Azure Lantern. She wanted to tell her child one final story about a little girl who cried about everything until the day she got a doll she became super attached to. From that day on, the little girl shared everything with her toy. And with that, the little one became more joyful and started to grow up. At that moment, the little girl opened her eyes and woke up. At first, she was confused about where she was, but then she noticed something that made her grin from ear to ear. She found herself in front of a magnificent, shiny new doll. Meanwhile, in the human world where our hero respawned, he was super intrigued by the recent events. After slaying the will of the Yellow Express and completing the trial, allowing him to finish the main quest and the hidden one with a perfect score, he got locked out of the game just as he was about to snag his rewards. This really ticked him off because that shouldn't happen. Then he heard a knock on the door. Knocking quickly turned into banging. This left Lu Yao totally confused. Shortly after, terrifying and hideous creatures barged into the room. The patient immediately thought he was hallucinating, which he found super weird since he just popped his meds, so he decided to just brush it off. But then one of them lunged at him, ninja style. The protagonist was like, "Whoa, what?" and dodged just in time, but still got a face scratch from that gnarly tongue. He was shook because, dude, no hallucination should hurt like that. The nurses were all like, oh, this ain't good. They tried talking to him, but he was all silent mode. So they figured, yep, he's tripping again. One of the nurses tried to help him out, but all he saw were 2 freaky monsters. And he was like, do I need to go full hero mode and slay these beasts? Then bam, the monster charged at him. So he decided to bounce, jumping over them like a parkour pro, and sprinted away like he was in a video game. Seeing this, one nurse was like, yo, report the runaway patient. As he kept running, he noticed something mega scary. A giant creature was blocking his way. It stabbed him in the leg. Ouch, he was in serious pain and couldn't stand properly. Lu Yao was like, okay, this is no game. So he thought about pulling something from his backpack. Just then, a hospital staff found him and asked what was up. He said he tripped and fell. No biggie, no injuries. The guy tried to chill him out and lead him back, but our dude was like, nope, and bolted. And then he jumped out the window like, what? Meanwhile, at the orphanage, kids asked their big bro when he'd be back. Jindali was like, I'll be back soon once I'm rich. He told them to stay put and behave. Then a kid pointed out a strange dude. It was a young guy in PJs struggling to walk. The orphans were like, he's definitely from a hospital. But then they saw his intense, scary vibe. The other player was like, whoa, danger alert, as the wild guy started causing chaos with his sword. The blonde dude grabbed the kids, saving them just in time. He told them to skedaddle. He had a teleport scroll, green quality, to zap someone away. The kids were worried about their big brother, but he was like, don't sweat it, I'm strong. But seeing the crazy power from the scissor-wielding guy, he realized he was in deep trouble. Our hero raised his sword, ready to fight. Jindali dropped to his knees and reminded the hero he was his son, but the hero told him to run, saying he was losing control. Seeing this, the blonde guy told the kids to run. Lu Yao couldn't hold back anymore. He unleashed a massive black slash. The other player ran for it, begging for help, and just when the kids thought their bro was toast, someone swooped in and saved him, the blast shockwave nearly knocking the blonde guy over. He opened his eyes to see a creature from another realm. It was Sloth, praising the hero's willpower for resisting the evil source even for a moment. She wasn't surprised by her chosen one's skills, saying giving him Demon's Descent was a great call. Then she used her skill, 7 Deadly Sins Requiem, freezing the area around her and casting a super chill vibe. The kids were amazed by the snow and started feeling sleepy. Before dozing off into dreamland, Lu Yao asked the demon if she was behind this. She apologized, saying she didn't mean to mess with him, and was shocked he unleashed the full evil source. He said he wanted to hear her side of the story. Sloth promised to explain, but pointed out they'd drawn too much attention. So she had to deal with some pesky humans. Seeing the magical snow, and a demon in the human world, plus a weird magic barrier, the player realized he was in another world. Then someone told him to step back. Jindali quickly did as told, wondering when this strange person showed up. This one immediately pointed out how Duke Sloth didn't even bother to notify them about her arrival, only for her to claim that the Night Watchers and their usual checkup routine are so boring, they could put a hyperactive squirrel to sleep. The odd one politely reminded her that she was bound by contract to ask for permission before entering the human world, which totally annoyed the entity, who dared the man to try and steal her away. He confidently stated that even though she now wasn't at full power, his pathetic seal could never hope to contain her. Even so, he revealed that if the demon planned on conquering Earth, he and his colleagues were totally ready to go full superhero mode and defend it with their lives. Sloth called out the Night Watchers for being suicidal, before revealing that the real reason she was there was because of the individual underground. The man had a hard time believing her because, according to him, this dude was just a weakling, who barely had any experience with otherworldly stuff, and even compared him to the trash nearby, making him immediately realize he was talking about him. The demon was surprised by how simple-minded the Night Watchers turned out to be, which totally intrigued the man. So he went to personally check out the unconscious young man, and what he found left him totally mind-blown. He quickly urged his colleagues to drop what they were doing and come over, and they immediately obeyed, which made the barrier disappear. The 3 men were shocked to see a source of extreme evil that was still kicking. So they asked the demon about the young man's situation, making her explain how he was now dealing with the after effects of awakening a tiny bit of evil power, letting him reach fierce level. This shocking news totally surprised the men, as they found it hard to believe Sloth's words. Seeing how her words weren't exactly trustworthy, the demon decided to take the human to the monster realm with her and never come back. Only then did the 3 Night Watchers stop her, claiming she can't just take someone from there. Sloth was intrigued by this opposition, so the first of the 3 men threatened to blow himself up if she didn't leave the young man alone. She couldn't help but smile, as she asked if they could really protect him, knowing full well the danger that surrounds the source of evil. With that, the man decided to unmask himself, affirming that it's super rare for a human to become the source of evil, so they would shield this one with their lives. She decided to leave him in their care, but not before reminding them that the public beta was coming up soon. This left the man still unprepared for a fierce level trial. Only then did the demon address Siming, pointing out how the Night Watchers previously relied on the 6 southern constellation lords to defend them, and that there was no point in pushing the beta even further since all of them were gone. Siming had no room to argue but politely asked Sloth to leave Earth. She decided to do so immediately, but before that, she leaned in close to the hero and kissed him on the forehead. The old man was left intrigued. The flustered dude claimed she was only giving him a definitive consciousness shield, and so he urged her to carry on. With that, the creature finally left. One of the Night Watchers tried to argue that using a kiss was unnecessary to cast the protective spell, so the old one told him to zip it. Meanwhile, Jindali, who was hiding, was relieved to see that his father was unharmed. Yet he began to think that he was just as bad as the previous ones who almost took him out. But he couldn't help but realize that what happened was out of the hero's control, and as he tried to get a better peek, he was suddenly startled by a man appearing behind him and introducing himself as Yuswan. The Night Watcher claimed there was great talent in the boy and that he could bring it out for the right price. Yet Jindali was terrified and asked to be left alone. The man refused, claiming that he was too weak to survive the public beta. And just like that, the blonde one was dragged away by the pants. Meanwhile, elsewhere on Earth, in front of a bounty board, Jopang was lost in her thoughts. She was so annoyed by being ignored, she even decided to slay the hero the next time they met. At that moment, her phone started ringing, and as soon as she picked up, her uncle screamed at her, calling her out for her bad manners. According to the records, the Night Watchers shouldn't exist anymore, and he claimed she would hang up if nothing was needed from her. The dude was trying to explain they had a mission for her, but she was all, nah, not interested. But then he mentioned a mega reward, and suddenly she was all about that kindness and generosity life. Meanwhile, over at the Sacred Heart Orphanage, a little dude asked the man what went down. The guy introduced himself as a doctor and asked if the kid remembered anything from the incident. The kid just shook his head like, nope, nothing. So the doc was like, take care of yourself, kiddo. Later, when asked about the results, the player said the opponent had a memory wiping power but told his buddy to let Elder Swan know he'd be keeping an eye on the hero. And then boom, an all-out war erupted between angelic and demonic creatures. The winged warriors realized they needed to take down their king to stop the chaos. But the demon god was way too OP. He flexed his power, claiming he was the evil source while wiping the attackers off the map. Then the creature summoned the 7 deadly sins to pass judgment on this realm. At that moment, someone woke our hero up. He snapped his eyes open, totally confused about where he was. The protagonist noticed a massive magic circle above his head, with a bunch of sorcerers chanting a powerful spell. He was intrigued as Sloth explained he was reliving the old memories of the previous evil source. She appeared in some astral form, saying she put a bit of her mind into his, and he'd have lost control if he didn't wake up. Lu Yao then asked for updates about the human realm, and she decided to show him, leaving him super curious as he stood in front of Zhou Peng. In the real world, our hero was all chained up. The girl confronted her uncle, saying he'd lost it. He was shocked by her sass, but ignored it, asking if she knew the new evil vessel. She confirmed she did, but wasn't aware of his true identity. Zhou Peng then asked about the blonde one, who was actually Jin Dali, wondering if he should befriend the girl who seemed close to the protagonist. So he tried to introduce himself, but got cut off by an assassin who whipped out a gun. Before she could shoot our hero, she got super annoyed when the old man stepped in at the last second. He explained they needed the evil source alive, which is why he stopped the bullet. Seeing this, the blonde one was totally freaked out. Zhou Peng demanded an explanation, calling out the death of her master. The old dude pointed out how long ago Sulu and Changshang sacrificed themselves to activate the array that defeated the enemy in the last war, with Yansha suffering wounds beyond recovery. With that, Zhou Peng decided to confront him for protecting the evil source, despite knowing what it did. She explained how the 6 divisions were gone, and the 3 elders weren't united anymore, because of the previous evil vessel. At that moment, the son jumped in, saying his dad had nothing to do with the old evil source wielder. She explained how most chosen by the extreme evil source end up dead, while the few others go mad and become killing machines. With that, the blonde one finally got why the hero was so aggressive, and the old dude explained that this was why humans in consensus agreed to slay the vessel ASAP once found. The extreme evil source is the original sin and an incurable disease that picks its vessel randomly. The ending was always the same, either death or a descent into bloodlusted madness. The assassin then asked the blonde one what he'd do if he met a newly awakened vessel, and while he struggled to get it, the new vessel said the only solution was to slay it to stop future disasters. The demon found his enthusiastic response kinda ironic, and the old man revealed how humans were never meant to wage war on other realities, because they couldn't beat the fierce grade, meaning they were bound to lose. Yet, what gave them victory was none other than the extreme evil source. As on that day, during the first invasion, this super mysterious dude just popped up out of nowhere, right when humans were about to get totally wrecked. This guy, who somehow unlocked some epic power levels, was the shining hero behind humans having any shot at all. In the end, monsters and humans decided to chill and turn the all-out war into some twisted game to decide the ultimate winner. Zhou Peng was a total mystery since the old one never spilled the beans about this tale. He spilled how this was a top secret guarded by the Night Watchers. Barely anyone knew, and it got even more hush-hush after the vessel went bonkers. The old one was all puzzled when the girl was like, I get it now. She said this story explains why the Night Watchers haven't gone full kamikaze on all the monsters yet. Turns out there was once a total beast in their crew, so he told her to chill with the sass. Getting serious, he said they got to protect the new vessel and they'd totally take him down if he ever lost it. Right then, the weak boys were like, we got this, to the strong ones. Even though they didn't totally get everything, they said they saw the main dude losing it, saying he would have been toast if he hadn't kept it together long enough for Sloth to show up, meaning the new vessel might not be a total puppet to the big bad evil. So when the old one asked if he thought Lu Yao had the guts to fight the evil, he was like, totally. The Night Watcher was skeptical since even the last vessel couldn't snap out of his rage mode. Jindali said the demon Sloth would back him up on this. With that, the old one decided to wake up our hero as soon as possible, before giving the young one a surprise gift, which turned out to be a golden ticket, known as the Blue Tier Life Substitute Talisman, letting him dodge death by bailing on the mission. The blonde dude was totally mind-blown by this epic item. The Night Watcher then said the only way to help was to boost the hero's willpower, to shield him from the evil's corruption, leaving the boy freaked out, saying he and the crew should team up with Lu Yao to spread out the evil vibes and chill the epic trials he faces. And so he told the blonde dude that the talisman would be his if he agreed to join the squad.